Greetings, fellow detectives. Wizard Kitten here, bringing you a new build in my series Building Nancy Drew in The Sims 4. Today we are doing another character home build, and for these renditions we are working on homes for characters whose houses we do not see within the games, but whose places I like to imagine based on their personalities. And since Cottage Living just came out, I of course wanted to build a cottage. And who better to build a cottage for than the one and only Hilda Swenson from Nancy Drew Danger on Deception Island. Now, I love Hilda Swenson. I did a video ranking my top 8 phone characters from the Nancy Drew series and building them in The Sims 4 in Create a Sim. So I'll be sure to link that video in the corner with a card in case you are curious to see how I imagine all of my favorite phone characters looking. But in that video, Hilda Swenson is my favorite phone character, and I think she is also the best phone character in the Nancy Drew series. I think it's really incredible because Hilda honestly feels like a full-blown character, even though we never get to see what she looks like, we never meet her in person, and yet she still feels so real and complete. She has her own full backstory. It's just really cool. I like Hilda a lot, and I thought that she would absolutely love to have a cottage, and particularly a cottage that's using a lot of the new lot challenge features that came with the Cottage Living expansion pack. So I imagine that Hilda's cottage would have all 3 of the challenges that came with not necessarily just Cottage Living, but are definitely a core part of Cottage Living. So simple living, which means that she would only be able to cook meals using ingredients that she has, and wild foxes, because she's kind of living in the middle of nowhere, so I would imagine that there are foxes, and then also off the grid. So I used plumbing fixtures and kitchen fixtures that are all off the grid, and I do end up giving her some windmills so she can make some of her own electricity, and some water filling stations as well, some like rain collectors, so that she can make some of her own water. Because I really think after we learn about Hilda's story, we kind of learn that she is very willing to completely separate herself from society. And honestly, the best way to do that is to live off the grid. If you don't have to rely on anyone, then you don't have to see anyone. And we know from the game that Jenna continues to kind of bring Hilda groceries, and so I kind of really enjoyed that storyline as well with this cottage, so that some of the groceries that maybe Hilda can't grow on her own or can't get on her own through foraging or farming, Jenna is bringing to her. So things like flour and sugar. And we know from the game too that Jenna just has to kind of leave them on the doorstep. Hilda doesn't come out and get those from her, which I think is kind of fun. I like that storyline a lot. Hilda is really and truly a hermit in this game, and I wanted to portray that in The Sims as best as I could. So I thought a cottage would be perfect. I was so excited to finally get my hands on Cottage Living and get to do some builds with it and really play around with all of the new build by features. I use a lot of build and buy from Cottage Living in this build. I do also use quite a bit of cats and dogs because Danger on Deception Island takes place in like the coastal western United States, and so that more kind of coastal seaside feel I felt also needed to be a big part of this build. So it's a nice combination, I think, of Cottage Living and cats and dogs, with a few other things here and there, a few other packs, but I would say that those are definitely the primary ones. A little bit of outdoor retreat on the outside as well. I really enjoyed going with this kind of navy blue theme for the windows, the stairs, kind of all of the wood features. So the outside of the cottage itself is very, tan, brown, gray. Those are really the shades we're going for the outside of it. But then I really enjoyed accenting it with the blue to try and kind of get that coastal feel within the rest of the house as well. It felt like the seaside for me, and I really enjoyed that. I started to go a little overboard with the navy, and I almost went with the bricks as well. But then I decided to use this really pretty wallpaper from Cats and Dogs on the inside to just get hints of that blue and go with more of a gray wood-toned floor. So then we're getting this really kind of like rustic feel, but it's still very put together. Like, this place is still very nicely maintained, even though it's a very old cottage, even though it's totally off the grid. Because honestly, that's probably what Hilda is spending the majority of her time doing. She's probably keeping this place really nice. She's doing her farming outside. I do end up giving her chickens and then 2 plots of the giant oversized crop kind of planters, but you can plant anything there as well. But she could also do the oversized plants if she would like. She's probably maintaining her windmills and her water source. She's probably exploring on the island and foraging for, natural mushrooms and stuff like that to eat, natural berries, all those sorts of things. She's probably keeping up her plumbing fixtures in here. They probably break periodically and need some high handiness skill. So I feel like that's what she's doing. She's spending her time fixing these things, and then Nancy comes along and she sees an opportunity to kind of finish what she started within Snake Horse Harbor. And her house is really nice because she has been spending so much time on it, but then she's also able to take that time away and help Nancy solve the mystery of Snake Horse Harbor, which I think is just a really fun idea. I didn't want this to be like a very dilapidated cottage, I guess is what I'm saying. I wanted it to still feel like very lived in, very cozy, but still very nicely maintained. Hilda wouldn't live in a really rundown kind of place. I just do not see that vibe for her at all. So we are working on the interior first, again, using a lot of Cats and Dogs, using lots of off-the-grid plumbing and kitchen fixtures, using some laundry day items, and then a lot of the cottage living items as well. I am very, very happy with the build and buy catalog for cottage living. I've seen a few people say, and I kind of agree, that the build and buy catalog seems smaller than other packs, but I honestly think that it has everything that I would have really wanted from it. We've got a lot of cute decorative items. We do have a beautiful new kitchen set. We have enough bathroom items, and we honestly didn't really need that many more bathroom items, so I'm fine with the bathroom items being pared back. We have a full bedroom set, lots of cute decorations. The one thing I do wish we would have gotten is more wall art. But I honestly feel that with literally every pack, I always want more paintings. I always want more wall art. I think that's something that's always nice to have in the games. So that's the one complaint I might have, is that I wish there was more wall art, but that's not exclusive to cottage living. I feel that with pretty much every Sims pack. I just want more art. So now we're working on Hilda's bedroom here. I took advantage of the fact that Hilda is the only one living in this cottage, so I could put her bed right up next to the wall and not have to worry about whether or not the Sims could scoot. Although apparently that scooting issue has been fixed, so that Sims will reliably scoot to the other side if there are 2 Sims that need to sleep in that bed, which is nice. I hope that's the case. I haven't honestly done gameplay in a long time because I've been working so hard on building and making videos for you all and working on my save file. If you haven't watched any of my recent videos where I've talked about my save file, basically what I'm doing is I am recreating all of the Sims worlds, all of the townies, and creating my very own realistic family-style gameplay save file. So I'm filling the worlds with things that I really like to have my Sims do, and a lot of that is like family type activities. I love when my Sims can go out to eat at a restaurant. I love when there are cafes everywhere. I love beautiful parks, and I'm filling it with venues that are like really kid friendly too, because there's not a lot of places for kids to go and have fun. So I'm like doing little daycare centers, and I'm gonna do a retirement village, and I'm honestly deleting a lot of the venues that I don't really use a lot. Like, I have never had my Sims go to a museum, honestly. I like the idea of it, and I think museums in real life are really cool, but I have never had my Sims go to a museum, because basically what you do is you click on stuff and you have your Sims walk over and they just look at it, which doesn't seem terribly exciting as far as gameplay goes. I like more interactive activities for my Sims. So I'm removing a lot of the museums. I'm really paring down the bar and lounge situation, especially early on in the Sims 4 lifespan. They had a really heavy focus on young adult party type activities. A lot of the first expansion packs we got, like get together, luxury party, those kinds of things were all really oriented towards young adult Sims going out to lounges and bars and nightclubs. So we have 3 venues that honestly feel very similar to me. Like a bar, a nightclub, and a lounge honestly don't feel that different. The point of them is all kind of the same, and it's for young adults to socialize. So I've really pared back that. I usually only have one of those types of venue in every world, usually more bars, because I enjoy that aesthetic more than a lounge and a nightclub, although there are places where lounges and nightclubs make a little bit more sense. So pared down, still there, and just a lot more restaurants, a lot more cafes, a lot more parks, and then a lot more like non-traditional community lot venues, which I think have been the most fun for me to create. Like the daycare center that I made, I had so much fun doing that because it's basically just a park, but it's filled with every single activity that your child and toddler Sims could possibly want. So I really loved the idea of being able to like travel there with your whole family, and then you can kind of leave the kids there and pretend like they're at daycare, they're at this daycare center, and then your adult Sim can go off and do whatever they need to do. Like maybe they need to get their logic skill up for work, so then they go to the library by themselves and then they work on their logic skill, and the kids are at this daycare venue, I don't know, just hanging out. It would be cool if we could make them like do things, like get their creativity skill up when they're at that venue. And it's maybe, we might be able to do that, because I know you can do that with the child and toddler Sims when they're at home, but that's the idea at least. The idea, the imagination part of it is what really makes me excited, honestly. And I have now talked through the entirety of the kitchen, but I really love how the kitchen turned out. I use basically everything from the Cottage Living expansion, as well as a bunch of decorative items from the Country Kitchen kit, which is definitely my favorite kit that has come out so far. And if you enjoy building and you enjoy this cottage aesthetic like I do, highly recommend the Country Kitchen kit. Even though the kitchen set in Cottage Living is very similar to the Country Kitchen kit, I still really love it. I am perfectly happy to have 2 very cottagey style kind of kitchen sets because I love the colors, I love the style. I will use them both all the time. And the decorative items are really where it's at, like all of the jars and the bucket of apples, the pitcher, the teapot, all of those decorative things that you can fill a kitchen in with. Perfection. You may have noticed too that I added food bowls and a leash set and a bunch of like dog themed things. So in the living room, I placed a painting with a big white dog, a really thickly furred dog looking out at the ocean. And I was immediately inspired to give Hilda that dog. So Hilda is going to be in my save file. She is going to live in this house. This is on the island in Windenburg, and that whole island is going to be filled with cottages. Moira is actually going to be here too, or like somebody very like inspired by Moira, because we built Moira's house during our last build. So Moira's cottage is very close to Hilda's, which I love. Still not sure if cottage is the right term for Moira's home or not, if that's considered a cottage. But it's cottage adjacent. So Hilda will be here, and I'm going to give her a big white furry dog just like in that picture. And honestly, I think that would work really nicely for Hilda. I feel like she doesn't want to be completely alone. She just doesn't want to be around people. So she's going to get a big white furry dog, and she's going to have her chickens. So I just placed her little chicken coop. I think I give her 5 chickens. I give her 1 rooster, and then I give her 2 white hens, 1 brown hen, and 1 black hen. So she's got a bunch of chickens that she can get her eggs from, and then she has these 2 little planting areas on the side. And I had kind of a fun time fencing these in. I feel like that's what makes the Cottage Living landscape and decor look so good, is having a lot of standard areas that are just like for one purpose. So like this is the planting area and it's blocked off by fences, so none of the little critters can get in there and mess with the crops. I think they still can, but in theory they can't. And then it just looks better. It looks more filled in. It looks like each space has a defined job that makes everything look just a little bit more complete in my mind. So that's basically what the entirety of the landscaping process is going to be. It's going to be filling in the outside with terrain paint to make it look like each space is very used, and there's a pathway to get to each place. So like for these little planting areas, I did a combination of like dirt and sand, and then we have the plots of land, of course, and then some decorative items. I made sure to put a few different outdoor trash cans because you need to clean out the chicken coop pretty regularly. So having a trash can right next to it is really helpful for just gameplay purposes. And then for also gardening, it's kind of nice to have a trash can nearby as well. And then I had a lot of fun just like filling in the pathways, making it look very full and lush with the landscaping. I had the super annoying glitch when I went in to take screenshots of this place where all of my terrain paint got deleted, and I was so upset. So for the screenshots, I just ended up doing a kind of minimalized version of what I actually wanted the terrain paint to look like. So you you might just have to imagine that since it's not going to look quite as good as it does in this particular rendition. At least you get to see what I wanted it to look like. All of the beautiful terrain paint that I worked so hard on, and then it just vanished. Does anyone else have that glitch all the time? It is honestly the most annoying glitch. I would deal with a lot of other glitches, but the terrain paint disappearing after you've worked so hard on it is a pretty frustrating one. Right now, I am really going through the Cottage Living debug menu. I have seen a lot of simmers say that this is the best debug menu that we've gotten so far, and I think I totally agree. All of the plants that we get are so stunning. Like all of these rose bushes that I'm putting in this corner here look so good. We got so many nice plain shrubs, like this green ferny looking one. It's the perfect size. It's gorgeous. It's done really well. It's rendered really well. And then this grass, you guys, is the best thing ever. Because one of the things that I struggle with the most when building in The Sims is things looking too flat. I don't want everything to look flat. I want there to be dimension, because that's what makes it look good, in my opinion, is when there's a lot of depth to the build. And the best way to achieve that, in my opinion, is with some solid landscaping and designing your house in a way that it has some depth and design to it. But a lot of the times that can be difficult when you have fences, because then the fences just kind of look flat. It's very, all of a sudden, there's this long, harsh line of just a straight edge, and it doesn't look very real. So having all of this tall, overgrown grass that you can put around the fences makes it look so much better, in my opinion, because if you think about it, when you're mowing the grass, when you're mowing the lawn, you're not able to get right up to those walls. You can get close, but you can't get like all the way up there. It's not a strong, harsh line. There's usually some taller grass right up along fences and stuff like that, because you can't get to it. And it's easier for it to grow faster there. So I put this tall grass around every single structure. I put it around the chicken coop fences, I put it around the planting fences, I put it around the entire house, and I did my very best to fill in the, all of the empty spaces with plants, most of which are from the debug menu. Not all, but quite a bit of them are from the debug menu. So we got a lot of these roses, a lot of the beautiful bushes. I don't even know what on earth they are, but they are stunning. And then in other parts of the build, we have the other debug flowers that came with Cottage Living. Very grateful for those, honestly. Here I was thinking about doing another brick wall kind of thing, because there was just this big empty space that wasn't quite working for me. But the brick wall, I didn't want it to block off the front of the house, since this is technically the front. So I decided to use all of these rocks to kind of create a path to block it off in a way, but it's not blocking the view, in any sense of the word. Even though this is the front of the house, what I imagined is to the left of where we're looking now, there is a dock, and you can look out over the Sims Ocean. But we're going to pretend that it's Snake Horse Harbor. We're going to pretend that it's the bay. So we can imagine that Jenna comes up on that dock, bringing Hilda her groceries, and Hilda can kind of see her through the window in the kitchen coming up, and then that's when Hilda will like go upstairs and like hide in the bedroom and like peer through the curtains. So she doesn't have to talk to anyone, and Jenna will be knocking on the door, but Hilda will never answer. So then Hilda just leaves the groceries in her rocking chair or something like that. And I really enjoyed that idea, so that's why there are kind of two front entrances. The front door is where the actual front of the lot would be given the screenshots, but then the entrance to the lot is where the dock would be, because I really like that idea a lot. And I love this island within Windenburg. I just think it's so pretty. And this is honestly where I'm going to be doing most of my cottage builds, because what's really awesome about cottage living is that Game Changers did the builds, so I don't really have to redo any of them. I love how they look already. And now I just get to fill in Windenburg with this cottage style as well as some of the Tudor styles. Windenburg is a really big world, so that one's going to take me some time to really finish and perfect in the way that I want it. But I am very excited to do so, especially now that we have cottage living, so that I can have this whole island be cottages and then kind of the town area be more of the Tudor style. That's really my goal with this. So I might be making some other cottages for some other characters pretty soon. I really, really love building cottage style houses, so I'm sure that will be on the horizon, which I hope you guys enjoy because I love it. But we are going to be coming up on these screenshots here very soon. I get some pictures with Hilda, so keep an eye out for those. I hope that you guys enjoyed this build. Please let me know what you think down in the comments section below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more Nancy Drew and Sims 4 content. Thank you so much for watching, fellow detectives. I will see you soon.